Welcome to my channel. This is Dr. English. Today's lesson is about tag questions. A very important lesson, right? Well, what do you mean by tag questions? Tag questions is a form of a question, right? But it's not an independent question. It comes rather at the end of the sentence with a question mark at the end, right? Instead of period, instead of full stop at the end of the sentence or structure. Well, we use tag questions normally as a kind of technique or a means of getting someone to pay attention to what we are saying. All right? So these are the different techniques normally people use in conversations when they are speaking. They want their audience to listen to them, to pay enough attention to them. Okay? Well, so in that way, we get somebody to pay attention to us or sometimes even agree with us. Okay? So these are the different things, means, and instruments we use in our conversation, our daily conversation. In fact, very normally and regularly. All right? So how does it work? What's it like? Whenever you use a sentence, okay, if it is positive, the tag question must be negative. The tag question must be negative. If it is negative, the tag question must be positive. So it's quite the opposite in polarity. All right? In terms of polarity, if it is negative, the tag question must be, or the structure of the question must be positive. If it is positive, then it becomes negative. Well, let's start with the positive examples because positive structures or affirmative structures are easier to understand. Okay? Well, actually, they are not divided to past, present, and future. It's not about tenses. No, I'm just giving more examples. Like some examples that can be grouped under past tense and some present, some future. Okay? Well, like this example. For example, she was happy. It's a past tense, right? It's about past experiences or past events. She was happy, wasn't she? So the same auxiliary verb is used in tag question first. This is how it is. The structure is, or the form of tag questions is as follows. So we use the auxiliary verb or the modal verb. Auxiliary verb or the modal verb. After a comma. So instead of period, like she was happy, period, it's okay. But normally we add something like this that we call tag questions. All right? So we put a comma and then auxiliary or modal verbs. Okay? Whatever auxiliary or modal verb you use there in the sentence, you bring it here. You use it here. But in negative form, you add not to it if it is positive. Because it is positive, we put not after it. Okay? And after that, we use the subject pronoun. Subject, pronoun, he, she, it, they, we. Okay? So, she was happy, wasn't she? And pay attention to the intonation, right? We say, she was happy, wasn't she? Wasn't she? It's first rising and then falling. The intonation goes like this. Wasn't she? Okay? Well, there are different ways of saying it. Like there is a different intonation pattern. It's always rising. That's not a tag question. You may see it in some examples in our books, but they are not tag questions. They are not examples of tag questions. We are focusing on tag questions today. That's another story, okay? We don't want to get into now. So she was happy, wasn't she? I went there. I went home, for example. I went there, or I went to the market yesterday. Didn't I? Didn't I? Didn't I? Didn't I? Right? So I went, past tense, go, went. We use did. I said auxiliary or modal. Auxiliary. Here we use the auxiliary did. Okay? Because this is past tense, we can't do anything to the verb. So we have to extract what auxiliary there is or what auxiliary can be used instead, and did is the one that we use here for past tenses, simple past tenses. So did. I went there, didn't I? I comes after the auxiliary, but the negative structure, the negative form of the auxiliary, because this is positive again. All right? If it was something negative, then you would have to use the positive did. Like, I didn't go there. Did I? I didn't go there, did I? Like this, right? Quite the opposite. So it's easy to understand. Another example, I use a past perfect tense. Had done, had learned. Had plus PP. So they had learned their lesson. Hadn't they? They had learned. Had is the auxiliary here. So we use the auxiliary right after a comma again, then put not, then subject pronoun. They had learned their lesson, hadn't they? Right? And to be honest with you, when we use tag questions, we don't expect a response. It's not a question, I said. It's not an independent question. So when you ask, well, a normal question, you expect an answer. You expect a response, a reply, right? But in tag questions, we don't expect that to happen. We just want our audience or our addressee to listen to us more attentively, all right? To have him follow us, actually, to listen to us, to pay attention to our words, okay? Well, the examples I gave you for present tense, for present situations or scenarios, are as follows. He's a doctor, isn't he? He's a doctor, isn't he? If it was negative, he isn't a doctor, is he? Is he? He isn't a doctor, negative, is he? Positive, right? Just like that, we use the to be form, which is an auxiliary, after comma, then not, then subject pronoun. Very easy, right? But I give this example on purpose. In the present form, whenever we have I'm, because we don't have ament in English. All over English, all across English books and literature and heritage, the more you search, the less you find anything like ament, because we don't have ament. Ament doesn't exist in English, in the whole English world, okay? So that's why I gave this example. I'm a teacher, aren't I? Because we don't have ament. English people use aren't instead of ament. So because we don't have ament, we use aren't. Just like that. It's just an exception. This is the only exception we use in tag questions. All right? Well, I use the modal here. We can walk home, can't we? Can't we? We can walk home. We can walk home, can't we? If it was, we can't walk home, can we? Quite the opposite, right? Well, and just one example for future. I will fly to the US. I'll fly to the US, for example, next month, right? I'll fly to the US, won't I? Will becomes won't because it's a modal verb. Will, right? Won't. And if it was negative, I wrote it down. I won't fly to the UK. I will fly to the US. I won't fly to the UK, will I? Right? So this is how we use tag questions in English, and tag questions are not independent questions, all right? They come immediately after a comma, and they attach to the previous sentence, right? And together they become a sentence, okay? And we use tag questions in order to get somebody's attention, catch somebody's eyes, actually, or their ears. Well, thank you for watching again, and until another video, stay awesome.